What is your hot take on what is next for the industry?
I mean, things that I would like to see as it goes through, especially on the NFA side of stuff, right? The Form 3s should be or need to be an immediate approval, right? The Form 3 is a transaction between licensees. It's a database check. It should be immediate. Why it takes 2 or 3 days at this point, I don't understand, and it's just kind of slows things down with a little bit of bureaucracy. So right now, if a manufacturer or distributor, they'll put it in today. You have to put in the license of who it's going to. So full FFL, SOT or EIN number, and then license category. And there's a check button on there, and it pulls it. And then you pick the inventory. Why that's not an immediate piece, I don't understand that. I also would like to see an API type piece where we can speed up the Form 4 process. So it can be a data push as opposed to right now it's about 9 screens of data that's got to get put in. They're small screens, but it's still, address, date of birth, pick the firearm, Clio type stuff. It's all got to get filled in. All that stuff we should be able to push in. The FBI's got the eNICS type system where you can actually plug into that and push in the NICS background checks as an API or data link. Why the Form 4 can't get that way, I don't understand. As well as why it's not a multiple serial number item. On a Form 3, the transfer from dealer to dealer, industry transfers, it can be hundreds, if not thousands of items. A Form 4 is a single item. So there's a waste and bureaucracy that happens. You have to do a background check every time. They are trying or state that they are doing batch and bulk approvals off of Social Security number, but it's an individual form per serial number. So it just slows things down, and it's just more friction and bureaucracy to it.
It should, he's right. It should auto, for Form 3s, it should auto, and same thing with Form 4. Form 4 should just be like a 4473, where all you can put on a 4473, you can have as many guns
Correct.
as you want on there. Should be the same process.
Correct.
It should be able to auto-calculate. And now I know as of this filming, we still have the tax stamp, quote unquote, the $200. We'll have the $0 coming in January, but it should be the same thing. It should just be, okay, this is $0, or hey, there's this many items. This is how much in tax stamps you owe. And it's just insane that bureaucracy has to slow up the process. And we have seen now from your side, are you seeing an increase in the speed of approvals?
So I mean, this time last year, I think it was, ATF went to kind of a batch type approval on some stuff, or batch push over to NICS. So they are collecting the data, pushing it over to the FBI. The FBI is doing a batch return back to it. So the digital Form 4s, for the most part, are coming back in 3 to 4 days, which is awesome. Like, it used to be 9 months at some point, a couple years ago, right? So now it's coming back in 3 or 4 days. Trusts are coming back in about the same time, 5 to 7 days type piece. But then you flip that around, the paper stuff is still 3 to 4 months. And the paper stuff matters for secondary sales and private party sales. So if you owned a NFA item and you wanted to sell it, you do a paper Form 4 because there's no way to do it on the e-form system. That also could be a method of change as well. I don't know if they'll ever get there with that, because right now, from the FFL standpoint, it is tied. The inventory of the FFL is tied to the FFL number and their EIN. Even as a sole proprietor, you have to have an EIN number to be able to transact on NFA.
Speaking of the $0 tax stamp, and Kailey, you can cut me off if you don't like this. Speaking of that, what do you think is going to limit the freedoms of people to get these products once that zero? Because we're going to see this wave of people wanting to get NFA items because the tax stamp's down to 0. Do you think that this will overburden their system? Is there a way, or where will we see people?
Without a doubt. So it's twofold. It's going to be a supply-demand piece, right? So ammunition back in like 2020, 2021, right? There's only so much supply out there. Demand is going to increase. It's going to open the market, I believe, to the lower end or lower cost items. The individuals that didn't want to spend $800 on a can plus $200 on a tax stamp are now going to be interested in, well, I can spend $600 if I can get something out the door. Okay, great. There's products that are out there that can do that. I think rimfire is going to explode in demand as well, because that's somewhere between 250 and 450 or so for a product. So it's an easy slice, and now it's not 50% of or 100% the cost of the item plus the tax stamp, right? So I think the rimfire side, and then also the lower cost, like center fire 5.56 type cans, the demand is gonna explode. E-forms today can barely keep up with the overall demand and the load on that server. So January 1st is going to be a train wreck. And how fast they can respond to that, I don't know. There's some good people that are trying and working and making some changes, but I don't know if they have the means or the budget, or in some cases the will to make the changes to make it faster. Again, you go back to like the Form 4 being a single item. If you could put 2 or 3 items on there, how much of the server load goes away, how much of the processing goes away, because you already have, everything is done. You're just adding one more, as opposed to a brand new transaction.
Yeah, I mean, I know of at least 20 people who are going to buy 3 or 4 cans.
Right.
So you're talking 3 or 4 cans. It's 4 different forms. Multiply that by millions of people. That server is just going to.
Well, and compound it, like there's many stores are doing like a layaway program right now. Buy it today, we'll submit it on January 1st, because the customer wants to save the $200 in the tax stamp. So not only do you have new demand coming January 1st, you already have pent-up demand that's waiting to go in, because guys are pre-selling it and waiting for it to be submitted. And then on top of that, private party sales, I think, are going to kick off too. So say you bought something that just you didn't like, too much blowback, whatever, and you're going to sell it to a friend, like that's going to be a paper Form 4. And after January 1st, it won't be a tax stamp, but it's still going to be a paper form. You're also going to have, I think, numerous people that will fix, quote unquote fix. They bought it as an individual, but now they realize a trust might be a good scenario for how their life is. Husband, wife, father, son, father, whatever, right? You can on the trust, you can effectively share the items between the trustees, whoever as a responsible person. So they're going to move it from an individual into a trust. That also is a paper form. So you're going to have secondary sales that will take off. You're going to have the trust moving stuff into a trust is going to take off, and then on top of that, new demand for I believe a new segment of buyers that were either priced out or didn't want to pay the $200 tax stamp. That's all going to come together in this neat little perfect storm. And yes, I don't think there's any way they're going to keep up.
Yeah, you are hitting the nail on the head. This is the same thing I've been saying. We're going to see this spike like this, and then it's going to be a race to whoever can make the cheapest can first to catch up.
Well, yeah, and the other piece, like what's good enough, right?
Yeah.
What's good enough on the can and the solution? Right now, we basically have generational product in the marketplace. High-end titanium, no question asked, lifetime service on these suppressors, because it's $200, a burdensome process, and guys just don't want to deal with it. Do you need that when it's not $200 per item? Do you need a lifetime warranty on it? Maybe it becomes a 1-year manufacturer weld type service warranty, but if you don't screw it on right and you strike a baffle, that's on you. I don't know. I don't have the answer for that, but you're going to start getting a bunch of what's good enough for a can. You look at like the European market, it is poor form not to shoot with some form of a suppressor, but they only last a season or two because of the material that's used, because they're a muzzle device. They're $60, $80 over there. Like, use it, throw it away, buy another one. Not a big deal. So like, what does that look like to the marketplace, and who's going to bring that product? For the last couple of years, a ton of technology has gone into the suppressor market, 3D printing, alternate materials, alternate designs, and it's advancing. And that's a concern I have too, is that, if we can't move some of these things up market and there's not the money there to do the research and the tech, what's going to happen to it? Is it just going to become a muzzle device, which it kind of is, but anyway. But I mean, it's what it is. So I'm curious what that looks like and how that goes. It's going to be an interesting time for the next couple of years. And, plus with the lawsuits that are present, like, because there's no tax being paid. The verbiage is a reduced tax, but is there still a tax? And so how's that going to shake out? And it's going to be interesting what happens the next couple of years on those cases too, to effectively gut the NFA on the registry for the NFA items.
Yeah, I mean, the only court case that was able to stand and why the NFA has lasted so long is because they referenced the tax component.
Correct.
And they said, hey, because of this tax, this law is legal. The minute that went down to zero, we got a lot of flack for working to get it down to zero. We were working for a full
Correct.
abolishment of the NFA. But when that was very clear that was not going to happen, we had a choice to make. Do we jump on what everybody else was saying of, let's do a $50 tax? Well, no, we need grounds to sue.
Right.
And so we went down to and advocated for the $0 tax so that we could launch the lawsuit.
Right.
Which is exciting because the NFA is unconstitutional. And I think that all of us in this room agree that, a right delayed is a right denied, and you shouldn't have to go through this entire background check system and go through all of these additional forms and all of this additional bureaucracy for something that we have the constitutional right for anyway.